My wife gives me a bit of a bad time about that. Became a bit of a cult hero, not playing many games for them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to One Soccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming. I am joined by my colleague Alex Gonge-Ruzic and our special guest, David Norman Jr. David, how are you doing today?
Good, Josh. Thanks for having me on today.
Not a problem. I'm very excited to talk with you. And my first question is around the Cup final coming up. It's a sold-out crowd of about 52,000 Irish fans. It should be pretty special for you. Are you nervous to compete for your first professional trophy?
Yeah, it's been quite the build up in the last few weeks. Seeing that ticket sold number keep rising. I saw a number the other day that I think it's going to be the most watched club football match in the country since the 1940s. So you can really feel the vibe in the city. Two teams from Dublin meeting in the FAI Cup final. So the group's excited. Definitely some healthy nerves. I think if you're not a little bit nervous, if you don't have a little bit of those butterflies leading up to a game of this magnitude, then there's something a bit wrong there. So excited for the occasion for sure.
Definitely. And just tell me a little bit about the fan culture around Irish football.
Yeah, it's been great. The grounds that we're playing in on most weekends and Friday nights aren't quite the 50,000 number that the Aviva is this Sunday, but they're loud, they're passionate. You can really feel the meaning it is for them. Experienced it as well in England this year with Northampton, but there's just a history, a real culture that bleeds into the players as well.
I guess, David, just going back a couple years, you came through the Vancouver Whitecaps as a BC boy. Pretty special that the club your father also came through back in the day. Just how special was it being able, looking back, like how special was your time at the Whitecaps coming through, especially knowing that, you know, it was a club that your father one day wore the same colors?
Yeah, the Vancouver Whitecaps always have a special place in my heart for sure. I think I spent 11 years with the club from about 9 till I was 20, 21. So spent a lot of time with them. I wore that crest in so many different jerseys, watched them in their first MLS game ever in 2011. Was to sign an MLS contract with them was still one of the biggest accomplishments for myself. It was unfortunate I didn't quite get my chance, didn't quite break through with the first team like I had hoped, like I had planned. Been quite the journey, been quite the 5-6 years since then. But yeah, it was a special moment growing up in that system for sure.
Now, speaking of your father, what has it been like to have someone in your corner as you navigate the ups and downs of a professional footballer?
Well, I think you hit it spot on there. The ups and downs. There's been a lot of those. I don't think there's an industry, a job where the highs are quite as high and the lows can feel very low as well. Whether that's injuries, not being in the team, whatever that might be. Having my old man as an ex-professional has been great because I think the biggest advice he's given me is just to try to stay as even keel through those valleys as you can. That's harder to do sometimes. It's easier said than done, that's for sure. But it's more those stories, those lessons that he faced for 17, 18 years as a pro. He's been able to pass those on to me, so I've been very grateful for that.
And David, after of course, after you left the Whitecaps, you were traded, as MLS can do, and you ended up at Inter Miami. How surreal was that whole experience? Because at the time, Inter Miami, there were a couple international players and then yourself. So what was it like being one of the first signings at a brand new club like that? What was it like dealing with someone like David Beckham? Of course, everyone's seen the documentary that came out on him recently. Was he just like the documentary? Like, how was that whole experiment like?
Yeah, Alex, that year was great in so many ways. It was very tough in a lot of ways. I tore up my ankle 2 weeks into preseason. Had a few surgeries on that ankle that ended up putting me out for 12, 13 months. So from the football side of things, I never was able to kick a ball for them and really show the club, the management, the ownership, what I was about as a player. But the club itself was fantastic. The city, you mentioned Beckham, to have him so hands-on before COVID. before COVID, he was around a lot, to see what he was like, to see what they wanted to build there. Like I mentioned, I was injured quite early on in preseason and training camp, but I still try to be like a sponge and soak up everything I could. To be honest, I was probably one of the players that spent the most time at the training ground, just being injured. The rehab hours are not your regular hours as a footballer. So I spent a lot of time at that training ground, and obviously I would have loved to have gone there and broken through there as well. That wasn't meant to be, but I'm grateful for the experiences and what I learned, and I think it's helped me as a player and as a person.
Now, David, you've been able to put together a pretty fascinating footballing CV. What are some of the biggest things you've learned from your travels?
Yeah, it's been 7 years, quite a few different clubs, a couple loan experiences. Now I've played in Scotland, England, and Ireland, so checking off a few countries for sure. As a footballer, first and foremost, just the different experiences, playing in front of different fans. You mentioned the fans here in Ireland, the passion, the history of playing for Northampton as well, playing in the English system, playing the EFL, getting promoted with an EFL team last spring. These are all things that you dream of as a young footballer. So definitely wasn't how I would have written it up when I was coming through the Whitecaps Academy, but I've been grateful for every step of the journey, and I'm excited. I'm still relatively young. It's one of those funny ones where I'm not a young player anymore, but I'm also not a senior player. So yeah, I'm excited to see where my career will keep taking me, and hopefully the next one is lifting a cup on Sunday.
I guess, David, two of the stops we were able to keep a closest eye on you are, of course, Pacific and the Cavalry, in the CPL. Just curious, what did you make of your time in the CPL, especially that you were there in year one with Pacific and you kind of got to see the league at its infancy. And then, of course, you played until last year. So you got to see the league grow. What did you just make of the opportunity it provided you? Because as you'll know, a lot of guys who came through MLS academies who are slightly older than you, there weren't opportunities like that. So how special was it to kind of have that come up right when you were a youngster trying to get your foot into the professional door?
Yeah, for sure. The CPL has been fantastic. You've seen so many stories now of players that have gone on, some to play for our senior national team, others that have gotten MLS moves to big clubs in Europe that have come through the CPL. For me personally, it was just such a great opportunity to play professional football in my own country. As a kid, that's never something I dreamed of, just because it seems so foreign. So the fact that, again, it didn't quite work out in Miami, and I was able to come back and play a few years in Calgary, to be part of a great city, a great club, to play a small part in what they're building in Calgary for soccer in our country. I was so grateful for the CPL. Obviously, I've kept a close eye on it this year. Some amazing games. The final was brilliant into extra time. So it's been just so exciting as a young Canadian to see the sport grow, and the CPL is going to be a big part of that moving forward.
Now, David, what is some of the biggest goals you have right now in your career that you're currently chasing?
Well, I think if you ask any Canadian footballer, the big one is 2026 World Cup on home soil. Playing for your country is probably the biggest achievement any professional sports person can manage, never mind a footballer. The fact that we've gone and qualified for one on our own, we've got one on home soil in 26. There's no reason we can and won't qualify in 2030. So for me, that's definitely top of that vision board. Is to play for your country. So trying to stay present and be in the moment and take it week by week. That's definitely something I'd love to achieve in my career.
I guess just kind of following up on that, you've had the chance to play for your country. You've had some youth camps, most recently the Olympic qualifiers a couple of years ago. First off, how special is that experience of putting on a Canada shirt, listening to the national anthem, playing in those sorts of games? And how special as well would it be to make that senior camp, knowing that, imagine growing up, just the fact that your father was able to play at a World Cup, how special would it be for you and your family to make that senior dream a reality, like you mentioned?
For sure. Yeah, he's got a World Cup, Olympics. We were close to the Olympics, like you mentioned, back in Mexico in 2021. So that playing with World Cup would be pretty cool and something I can match him at. So we're working to make that happen. But yeah, you mentioned that I've played, I think, almost at every youth level for Canada, which are some of the best moments of my career. The feeling of hearing your national anthem, going out and playing for your country, even at the youth level, was so special. So that's something that I'm definitely working towards. I don't think I've quite. I think I've showed glimpses of myself as a player, whether that be with Calgary, my different loan spells with Vancouver, and now most recently with Northampton and here with St. Pat's. I think I just need to stay consistent, show what I'm about over a period of time, and hopefully there's a senior camp in my future.
So David, I want to rewind a little bit to the end of your Northampton Town experience, because you gained promotion. And I remember I was following you pretty closely at the time. And when the roster came out that you weren't going to re-sign, a lot of fans were pretty upset, and they were on Twitter, X, and they were saying, why isn't Norman staying? Like, he was one of our best players as we gained promotion. And then shortly after that, you signed for St. Patrick's. So I'm just curious of what happened towards the end of Northampton Town and how the signing for St. Patrick's came about.
Yeah, my wife gives me a bit of a bad time about that. Became a bit of a cult hero, not playing many games for them, but played in some big games down the stretch. I think it was the last 6 games, which were all, huge in their push for promotion. And Northampton's also a place that just bleeds football. It's a small town, about an hour and a half north of London. But you can see what the club means to so many people that live there. So for them to get promotion is huge. Would have liked to have stayed in there, stay in the EFL. Unfortunately, there were some other circumstances that didn't make that possible. And then the option to come to the League of Ireland, St. Patrick's, came around. They had qualified for Europa League Conference qualifiers. So the fact that I could come here, play European football, again, a new experience at a good level, it all seemed to fit, and I've really enjoyed my time here so far.
I guess just final one for us. Obviously focused on the final this weekend, and looking to lift the trophy. If I'm not mistaken, your season's over after this as well. Unique calendar, I guess, in Ireland. So knowing that this final's pretty much it for the season, how are you looking forward to that, and what might be next for you after this final?
Yeah, we finished the league last weekend, secured another European spot for next year, finishing 3rd in the League of Ireland, which is huge for the club, huge for the fans. So that was the main goal achieved. And then the FA Cup final is the last game of the season here in Irish football. So really, I'm focused on that. My contract's up at the end of this year, so not quite sure what the future holds for me. But I'm looking forward to hoisting a trophy on Sunday and letting all those things figure themselves out after.
So David, I want to sneak in one more question, because a little birdie told me that you're a big Rangers fan. Okay. So I just want to see what you're thinking, seeing Alistair Johnston have so much fun at Celtic right now. Yeah,
he's been doing well, hasn't he? To see him play in some old firms and been following his career quite closely. Yeah, very excited for him, and to see young Canadians like that who have had such a great progression in their career gets me excited and makes me think, why not? Hopefully I can be playing against him in the near future.
Beautiful. David, thank you so much for the time, and best of luck this weekend in the Cup final.
Appreciate that. Josh, Alex, thank you guys.